Money, as we all know, is what makes the world go round. The story in Formula One is no different. Most sports, such as football, rugby, and basketball, are far simpler to succeed in without a lot of money. But Formula One, and motorsport in general, are the polar opposite. Unlike other sports, where it is possible to pay to win, Formula One is pay to participate or compete in the first place. This suggests that there are a lot of zeros on the balance sheets of Formula One. Formula One generated $2.02 billion in revenue in 2019, with the highest-paid drivers earning up to $40 million per year, putting them on par with some of the world's highest-paid athletes. And this trend is not slowing down, with karting already costing six figures in many cases. The number of paid drivers who have entered the sport in recent years reflects this. But enough about paid drivers for now. Formula One isn't just a business in this video, since it's about the teams. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry with tens of thousands of employees, and the teams are the businesses that keep the sport running, similar to how Google and Apple keep the computer industry alive. Apart from charities and other non-profits, the goal is to create a profit, although that is unimportant. So, how do Formula One teams make money, and do they even break even? Stay with us for the next 10 minutes or so as we go into this topic. Just to clarify, all of the data we'll be utilizing in this video are from 2019. This is because the official figures for 2021 haven't been released yet, and the pandemic figures from 2020 wouldn't be representative anyhow. To talk about profits, you have to talk about the costs and revenues for the business, just like any other business. The term costs and revenue refer to how much money a company spends and generates. To make a profit, you must earn more than you spend, or your revenue must exceed your costs. And with Formula One teams, there are many different factors that go into the costs and revenues, many of which you probably aren't aware of. So, to begin, let's look at how much money a Formula One team spends and what they spend it on. Research and development, salaries, manufacturing, and operations are the four major cost areas. Research and development, abbreviated RD, includes activities such as wind tunnel testing, track testing, and other types of component testing to ensure that they perform as intended. Salaries, on the other hand, are very self-explanatory. They include paying team members, such as the marketing crew, drivers, such as Lewis Hamilton's $40 million salary, and team executives, such as Toto Wolff, Christian Horner, and others. The team's production costs include all new part manufacturing, component purchases, and either the building or purchase of the engine, which can cost upwards of £10 million on its own. The final part is operations, which includes logistics and travel, entertainment for clients moving, everything by freight to long-distance races like Singapore, IT and tech costs, factory costs, and professional services like marketing or things like that. And funnily enough, the cost of fuel surprisingly adds up over a season. So, if I add various values to these sections, we can begin to see how much the average team spends over the course of a season. In this hypothetical example, the team spends $158 million. Now, keep that number in mind because it's crucial. So, let's flip the coin and look at how an F1 team makes money and creates income. Quick disclaimer, this isn't a standard for all teams, which means some teams make money in different ways than others, but we'll explain why. The revenue, like the costs, can be divided into 3 or 4 categories depending on the team. There's FOM payments, sponsors, investments, and lastly, driver links. Let's start with the most important, FOM payments. FOM stands for Formula One Management, in case you didn't know. To explain how Formula One teams get compensated, I'll break it down into 5 columns. So, in the first column, every team that has been classified for more than 2 seasons will receive £36 million. This is known as the Column 1 payment, and it is given to each and every team. The prize money is calculated in the second column based on where the team finished the previous season. Mercedes, for example, was awarded $61 million for winning the championship, but Williams was awarded only $13 million for finishing last. So far, everything appears to be fairly balanced. We're not done yet though. The third column is known as the LST, or long-standing team, and it's also known as the Ferrari budget because it's the only one handed to them, and it's a stunning $68 million, more than Mercedes received for winning the championship. The CCB, or Constructors' Championship bonus, is a $35 million payout made to Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and McLaren for winning several of the championships. Finally, there are a few other payments, including a $10 million heritage payment to Williams, which is identical to Ferrari's, $35 million to Red Bull for being the first to sign the Concorde Agreement, and $35 million to Mercedes for delivering on their promise of 2 championships. For those who are curious, here's how it all balances up, but keep in mind that this is only one piece of the picture. Sponsors come in second in terms of earnings. I'm sure most people understand how they work, but basically, a firm like Petronas approaches a team like Mercedes and says, "I want to be on your car so we can advertise ourselves." And Mercedes responds, "Okay, fine. That'll be $7 million, job done." That's in simple words, but on average, a team has 15 to 25 sponsors who each pay a fee to have their logo placed on the car. And obviously, the higher performing teams will have more sponsors because they receive more TV time and are more marketable. It's especially true the other way around if a team or driver has a bad image. As a result, teams must rely on investment from either a parent company or shareholders. For example, let's assume Mercedes wants to do better in Formula One, so they give them $80 million per season. Every team is in the same boat, although some can afford to invest more than others. So, although Mercedes received $80 million in 2018, Racing Point received only $25 million, accounting for at least a fifth of total earnings for several teams. So, it's understandable that a team like Williams would suffer. Finally, there is driver-linked income, which is when a driver pays a team a sum of money to drive the vehicle, such as Lance Stroll, who paid Williams $30 million to drive the car in 2017. But this only happens with teams lower down the grid that are desperate for revenue. So, those are all the several ways a team might make money. So, let's apply it to our hypothetical situation. Assume our team receives $65 million in FOM payments, $30 million in investment, $50 million in sponsorship, and £20 million in income from DriverLink. This amounts to a total revenue of $165 million. As a result, in our hypothetical example, the team would profit by $7 million. That is, in essence, how an F1 team makes money. But why not take a look at the current winners, Mercedes, and see how they compare? So, in 2019, Mercedes spent roughly $425 million on research and development, manufacture, testing, and Lewis's paycheck, and their income was split as follows: $180 million from the FOM, $80 million from Daimler, and $160 million from sponsors and tech partners. So, doing the calculation, Mercedes lost about $5 million in 2019, give or take a few $100,000, and looking at the grid as a whole, it's actually quite interesting. Except for 2, all of the teams break even, which means their costs are equal to their revenues. Obviously, these are estimations, and expect a tiny loss or gain in either direction, but the point is that almost every team utilizes all of their resources to the fullest extent possible, which makes a lot of sense, and here's why. Formula One is utilized by car companies to demonstrate to the world that their road vehicles are the best. Therefore, teams like Mercedes, Renault, Ferrari, and others use it as a marketing platform to show the world that their road cars are the finest. If someone who enjoys or watches Formula One buys one of their cars, it offers those companies significant money. So, it doesn't really matter if they aren't making a profit at the end of the day, because if they are, it means they have more potential resources to increase the car's performance, which is the most essential thing. Because of the budget cap, the entire financial landscape of Formula One has changed considerably. Basically, there will be a maximum amount that teams can spend, which will be set at $145 million. Meaning that any team spending more than $145 million will have to be much more efficient with how they spend their money, which will undoubtedly affect teams like Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari. The main goal, which I support, is to create a more fair playing field. You might be thinking that every team's budget in 2019 was above $145 million, which is correct. However, many teams' budgets have plummeted as a result of the epidemic. I'm sure some teams will find ways to get around the rules, but it's unquestionably beneficial to Formula One. So, that's a quick look at how Formula One teams make money and operate their businesses, and it just goes to show how efficient some of the smaller teams, such as AlphaTauri, are, and how fantastic something like Pierre Gasly's victory in Monza are. Make sure to like this video and drop a comment below, and, as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell to be reminded of any new videos.